Hey guys, JC Perez here, founder of AllStarCharts.com, and I am joined as always by my esteemed colleague, Mr. Sean McLaughlin. Shawnee, how are you, baby?
AllStarCharts.com. That's a new little tagline. It's not .net, it's .com.
Always was. Always was. It's not like a .io or like the kids these days, it's all the .xyz. Like we don't, well, I guess we're not cool enough to have any of that stuff. Like we're old school.
.biz.
.biz, .gov. Yeah, all right. Well, here we are. And, Sean, we were just laughing off air, how long you and I have been doing this and arguing about markets and, a long, long, long time ago and how much alcohol was involved back then. We just had a little chuckle. And I thought it was appropriate since we're going throwback this year, talking about old times. Where did you find this picture? Like, what is this?
Dude, that is my favorite phone of all time right there.
Wow, that's impressive.
I had three versions of that phone back in the early 2000s, late 90s.
This is your favorite phone?
I'll tell you, man,
look, not like the one that like can like do literally anything for you that we have now. Like, this is not your favorite phone?
The iPhone has advanced society and it's a wonderful device. However, for just simply making phone calls, this StarTech phone was the best phone hands down for any mobile device I've ever had.
What years was this?
Late 90s, early 2000s. And this
phone, I had one that was very similar to this. I may have even had this one actually.
Well, you know how like when you're talking on a cell phone, oftentimes you talk to somebody, there's like an audio delay or it's like the signal goes in and out. That never happened with the StarTech. It was like the guy was standing right next to you talking. It was beautiful.
All right. So here we are talking about Motorola, but I believe it's a more enterprise business that has really thrived since spinning off, I believe, like 2010. Like, you guys who are experts and all that, knock yourself out, get all the information. I, for one, don't care at all. Just something that happened a decade or so ago. And as you could tell, I don't know what the hell they did, but shareholders certainly seem to like it as the price of the stock has just made higher highs, higher lows for a decade and change. And when you first saw this, when you were like, oh, hey, right?
Well, look, this is a chart that would make investors in research and motion drool, right? Like the BlackBerry was a one-trick pony and they just haven't quite pivoted the way they should. Meanwhile, Motorola, we were all surprised to learn when we were talking this morning that it's been around for 100 years. So long before the cell phone. Clearly, Motorola knows how to lead technologies, pivot into new technologies. And this chart is a glaring example of whatever they're doing it right.
Yeah, new all-time monthly closing highs. So in other words, the highest level that this has ever closed ever. I just wanted to check on the market capitalization. It's almost 50 billion in market cap, Shawnee. I mean, that's not nothing, any way you slice it. That's a large cap stock. We make fun of large caps being, 10%, $10 billion in market cap's a large cap. We laugh at that. Like, that's just not the case. And, a $2 billion stock is not a mid cap either. We got to raise those numbers. But when we talk $50 billion in market cap, there's no question. That's a large cap stock. Something like Motorola, very impressive. Let's zoom in a little bit. You're seeing new 52-week highs as we speak. I've studied a lot of downtrends in my day, Sean, participated in plenty. Not a lot of new 52-week highs along the way in those downtrends, I've noticed.
No, you were right. And when we were talking about this chart this morning, first of all, we love that it broke out the way it did over yearly highs about 3 weeks ago. And it's just been hanging here, flagging. Love that. And it feels like it's ready for a move. And here's the thing that we're doing here, which is a little unusual, at least for me with the options trading. I generally, when I see a chart like this that I like, I want to get involved and I want to get involved for some time. Like I want to have time for the play to play out. But we've got two catalysts on the horizon here that I think are setting up for making this a quick hit and run profitable trade. First up is we've got the price level of 300 coming up not too far. We're 17 bucks away from 300. And we talk about it all the time, JC. We love the $100 roll. The $100 roll applies to 200 to 300. Every big round number, it just, there's no real reason for it. Psychologically, it's the reason really is that investors are attracted to big, large, round numbers. Fine, whatever. It happens. We deal with it. We've observed it too many times.
John, you know why? It's what Phil Perlman says. People are crazy, right? That's why people are crazy. They're just attracted to that those round numbers. Like it makes no logical sense, but that's just what it is. Like we've studied these prices forever. Like you just see it again and again and again. It almost serves like a magnet. Doesn't mean it has to happen every time. Doesn't mean that, how do you quantify it and use it as a track record? All I'm saying is when you're trying to put on a trade for other reasons and you notice that there's a large round number, Sean does a very good job of that. It's almost like subconsciously you're thinking, there's another catalyst to send it higher in addition to all the other things that you're observing, right?
Right. So the $300 roll is in play. That's catalyst number one. Catalyst number two, and this again is also something I don't do too often, but we do have earnings coming up in Motorola in exactly a month from now. Actually, May 11th is the earnings date. And I usually don't like to position ahead of earnings, but when we've got the 300 roll on deck, when we've got the underlying trend absolutely supporting a move higher, I feel like the earnings could be a catalyst for us to get to that 300 level and possibly beyond.
So you got to give the people what they want. That's all great, all your mumbo jumbo, Sean, but what's the trade, son?
So today we bought the May 300 strike calls. We paid $4 for them. And the play here is simply this. We're not trying to like take half, which is what we often do when we buy calls. We don't have a whole lot of time for this trade to work. So we're going to hit and run when we get our profit. And so for me, if this thing hits that 300 target, and if it hits 300, I'm willing to bet it's going to go even further. Yeah. Where I'm looking to take profits and get out of the trade is once we get above 305. Now, this thing could go to 320 on a huge gap. Who knows? But 305 is the number I'm looking at. When we get to 305, I'm taking the trade off for whatever it's worth, booking the profit, and moving on to the next thing. This is for me, this is a quick hit and run type trade.
Well, as someone who they call Mr. 305 here, Shawnee, let me tell you what I think about this trade. I like the fact that you are reiterating that this is happening right now. This is happening right now. These are the May 300 calls that are out of the money, and the expiration is 5 weeks away. So why don't you talk, let's dork out, within reason a little bit. Let's dork out as to why that's so critical to understand that. And, what does the decay look like in that time value that we're essentially buying today?
Sure. So, and I mentioned earlier, it's I don't like to get into positions with, short duration until expiration. It's because as we get closer to expiration, especially if you're just buying straight long options, in this case, long calls, as we get closer to expiration inside 4 weeks, inside 3 weeks, the value of those options will begin to rapidly decay, or more specifically, the value of the premium in the options will start to rapidly decay. And since these are currently out of the money calls, the $4 that we paid for those calls, that's all premium. There's no intrinsic value. Intrinsic means, if the stock is trading above the strike price of the calls. So it's all premium right now. And as we get closer to May expiration, that premium is going to more quickly erode. So that's why we want to get in, get out with this trade if we can. If it gets up to 305, we're going to take our profit and move on, because we don't want to give the market every opportunity it can to take that profit away from us.
Yep. So buying the MSI May 300 calls, you got about 5 weeks or so. New all-time highs on this thing. Sean's favorite phone, for you fundamental analysts out there. I mean, what else do you need to know? That's like saying Warren Buffett's buying it. I mean, Sean's favorite phone ever, a little aggressive. I definitely don't agree, but hey, whatever makes you happy, Shawnee. And I love how you appreciate a good uptrend. Right?
I call me old school, JC, but if I'm getting long, I want there to be a trend that supports continued upward motion.
Is it because market prices, do they trend, or are they random, Sean?
This is not a random walk down Wall Street, if that's what you're trying to get me to tease.
Markets are not efficient. They're almost efficient, which by definition makes them inefficient, right? So that's how we like to roll around here. Johnny, make sure to follow Sean at Options Sean. Do I have that right? Is that the new handle? You fancy now with your new handle.
You're right. That's the new handle, Options Sean.
So now he's not just from Chicago anymore. Now he's all options now, which is good. I mean, you are Options Sean. I mean, at the end of the day, you're my guy. You're my go-to guy. I've gotten all my options chops from you. I talk to people about options and they think like I know what I'm talking about. I'm like, listen, I hang out with Sean plenty, right? You make me sound smart, Sean.
Well, thank you. You too make me sound smart when I have to talk technicals to people.
All right, guys. Listen, I'm JC Perez, founder of All Star Charge. Sean McLaughlin. See you next time.
Take care, everybody.
Adios.